What's up, guys? I am so happy to be here with you for our lesson 2 of our series, Like Me. We've been doing some daily devotionals and everything going with that, so make sure you check Instagram or YouTube, and you can go back and get those if you missed any. I think it's a great daily devotional series and a great series that we're working on. Today we're going to be talking about something, again, as we talk about ourselves, something that we don't like to talk about, and that's jealousy. Okay? Now, some of you may know, and you may not know, that my brother, when he was 12 years old, could throw a baseball 80 miles an hour at 12 years old. Okay? So that had its own kind of jealousy, but that was dealing with your brother and that kind of thing, sibling rivalry, which happens. But what also was part of that is every single family vacation was at a baseball field. Do you know that I hate baseball now? Because I would have this one friend. Everybody has that one friend that takes really awesome family vacations. Really awesome. I never had that. We were at a ball field. Crazy thing, I've never been to Disney. Okay? Never. No. First time I'm going to go to Disney is when I take my kids there. So I just haven't been, because we never had a family vacation like that, because we were always at a ball field. And I had that one friend that would go overseas or go to the Caribbean or go to Mexico or go to some elaborate family vacation, and I'm like, I was at a ball field. And it worked out. Seth had a great career and enjoyed baseball and still does, but it just kind of made me very jealous of my friends, who had a much better time with family vacations than at a ball field. And here's the deal. Jealousy, if unchecked, can lead us to be slighted or agitated or even angry against someone else. And sometimes that can lead us to straight up disliking someone. Have you ever disliked someone just because you liked what their stuff or their ability? It happens. They may be the nicest people that we know, and maybe they've never done anything remotely mean to you specifically, but it doesn't mean that jealousy doesn't creep in and change our hearts and make us see them in a different way. Think about it. There are some people that you don't like because they're mean to you. We get that. We understand. They ignore you. They call you names. They talk down to you. Maybe they tried to flirt with the person that you're talking to. Whatever it is, it makes sense why you don't like them. But sometimes there are people you dislike who have never done anything wrong towards you or harmful towards you. The only reasonable explanation for you not liking them is that you're jealous of them. It could be for a million different reasons. Their ridiculous good looks, the car they drive, the phone they have, who they're dating, the grades they get, the position that they play on the team, the attention that they get from everyone, or even the house they live in. And then there's reasons that are deeper, like they seem to have the perfect, unbroken family. How their parents show up at all of their events. And that they're always healthy while you're sick every other weekend. How it seems like they can have confident conversations with other people so easily, but you struggle talking to a group of more than 3 people. Whether you're jealous over something small or something that runs deep, here's what we know to be true. Jealousy changes the way that you see others, and it changes the way you see yourself, okay? When you see things that other people have and you don't, but you wish you did, jealousy can lead us to feel unhappy about our lives. Even if before we noticed they had something, we were totally happy about it, okay? Or jealousy can make you feel insecure about who you are or who you aren't. Looking at them makes you feel worse about you, and that's when anger can enter the scene, because anger almost always follows jealousy. That person becomes the source of your unhappy feelings and eventually the target of your anger. When we feel anger towards someone, it is so much more difficult to celebrate the good things that we have and the good things that they have. So what do we do? What do we need to do instead? Okay, we distance ourselves from. Well, this is what we do. We distance ourselves from them. We talk badly about them behind their backs. We secretly make lists in our heads of everything wrong with them. You know, they're not so perfect. Did you see that their hair was? No, whatever. We don't like them, and we act like it. Okay, we let everybody know we don't like them. All of a sudden, we're not good with them, and we're not good with ourselves. The whole thing is, well, not good in any form or fashion. We all know that the real question is, what are we supposed to do about it? Okay, what can we just do? There's not a way to just wave a magic wand and make life perfectly fair, because if you think, if you're still saying, well, that's not fair, life's not fair, okay? It's hard to not be jealous at someone at some point. So exactly what are we supposed to do with it? And here's the deal. If you've ever dealt with jealousy, you're not alone. Everyone has struggled with it, okay? Everyone has experienced jealousy. Adults deal with it just as much as you do. In fact, it's always been a struggle for humans in general. That's why we can read stories about people experiencing the same thing from the Bible. In Bible times, there was this man named Saul. Saul, he was the first king of Israel. He was initially known as a good and generous king, courageous in battle, and generally had the respect of his kingdom. All right, things are going well. But at one point during his rule, the people found themselves in battle with a group of people called the Philistines, and there was a powerful group of Philistines. And if you've ever heard the story of David and Goliath, then you know that Saul was, that's who we're talking about, okay? Goliath was a Philistine. Check it out. Here's what 1 Samuel 17, 1-3 says. Now, the Philistines gathered their forces for war and assembled at Sokoh in Judah. They pitched camp at Ephes Dammim between Sokoh and Azekah. If I say these names wrong, don't judge me. I'm doing the best I can. Anyway, Saul and the Israelites assembled and camped in the Valley of Elah and drew up their battle line to meet the Philistines. The Philistines occupied one hill and the Israelites another, with the valley between them. Okay? They're ready for war. They're there. It's a perfect setup for an old-fashioned throwdown. But the Philistines had a secret weapon. And in this time, a lot of times what people would do, instead of having everyone fight, they would bring forth a champion. Okay? Basically, you bring your best, we'll bring our best. They fight instead of all of us. Kind of like this idea, if I'm one of those middle people. If I'm one of those middle people like, hey, ooh, wait, well, let's send our best in. Oh, you won. Okay, we could either leave and run away, or we won. So kind of a good idea. But a champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. He was 6 cubits. His height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze weighing 5,000 shekels. Okay, dude's big. All right. Some estimates say that he's like 9 foot tall. Dude is big. All right. So obviously, he was their champion. He would crush people just by sitting on them. No, he had been fighting since he was a kid. This is what he was born and bred to do. Okay, and then David stepped in. All right, so saying that he was ready to fight Goliath. Saul heard about it and sent for him. David said to Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul replied, "You're not able to go against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man. He has been a warrior from his youth." Okay? Basically, Saul is saying David is crazy for thinking he can do this. Okay? David's just a kid. He's not that big. What could he be thinking? But eventually David talked Saul into it, and here's what happened. As the Philistine moved closer to attack him, David ran quickly towards the battle line to meet him. Reaching into his bag and taking out a stone, he slung it and struck the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a sword, or with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. All right, as you can imagine, David became instant celebrity, okay? He's the instant hero of the people. But his story didn't end on the battlefield. King Saul promoted David because of his courage, which was a good thing to do as a king. You go, I'm going to align myself with him. And when he did it, whatever mission Saul sent him on, David was so successful that Saul gave him a high rank in the army. This pleased all the troops and Saul's officers as well. David went on to have great success doing anything and everything. Basically, he had the Midas touch. Anything he touched turned to gold. It worked, and all the people loved him. All right, the Bible says it this way. As they danced, they sang, Saul has slain his thousands, David his tens of thousands. All right, so the people danced and celebrated what David had done as greater than what Saul had done. All right, now put yourself in Saul's shoe. How do you think he felt about everyone looking at David and liking David more than they did him? You know, he's just a guy in the army, whereas I'm king. And as this continued, you know, there was so more. Saul, 1 Samuel 18:8-9 says, Saul was very angry. This refrain displeased him greatly. They have credited David with tens of thousands, he thought, but me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom? And from that time on, Saul kept a close eye on David. All right, so we know the attention has grown. Okay, and as the people continued to praise David for his heroic efforts, they began to see him as greater than Saul. Now, it isn't that the people turned from Saul. The people didn't leave Saul. They didn't say, well, you're stupid. No, they just saw David in a better life. That's when jealousy set in for Saul. When Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. 1 Samuel 18:15. Saul could have been happy for David. Actually, he could have applauded everything that David had done for his kingdom, all right? It's his kingdom. He's the king. He should celebrate the things that David has done. He has helped his nation. But instead, Saul felt threatened by David's rise to fame and to power. In fact, he eventually plotted to kill David and spent a large majority of the rest of his life chasing after him in hopes of taking David out. Which is crazy, because it was Saul who recognized David in the first place. It was Saul who put him in a high place to begin with. It is Saul who progressed him through the ranks. All right. So, and here's what I think the author of this proverb gives us great insight to how this really works out. Proverbs 14:30 says, "A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones." And if we're not careful, we can find ourselves in the same position that King Saul did. We'll discover for ourselves how jealousy of a friend can rot and destroy and ruin us. Jealousy can destroy that friendship. Jealousy can cause us to doubt our own talents, our own achievements, and our own successes. Jealousy can rot how we feel about ourselves. Jealousy can kill our peace. Now, here's a fun fact. We believe, typically, who wrote that proverb, okay? Solomon, King David's son. So I can only imagine, the Bible doesn't say this, but I can only imagine King David talking to his son about this, how Saul and the jealousy really ruined Saul, because that's what ruined him, that jealousy. And so, you know, firsthand experience of seeing how jealousy can rot someone. All right. So we will constantly encounter people who will have better things than us and seem to have a better life than us. That will never stop. And sometimes that sets our hearts in a strange direction. And if we aren't careful, that gut feeling of jealousy has the potential not only to ruin our relationships with others, but it can also ruin the way that we feel about ourselves. All right? So what do we do about it? All right, I want you to try it. Okay? I want you to think about someone you're jealous about and stop it. Did that work? No, it didn't work. It didn't work. It hasn't worked for me. Telling you to stop being jealous doesn't really help you stop being jealous. It just makes you more angry because now you know I'm jealous too. But it doesn't work. All right? But what do we do? How do we actually do it? Now, I'm going to give you a way to do it. It's going to not make sense. but bear with me and try it, okay? Just try it, and I think you'll be amazed how well this really does work. Here's what we can do. Celebrate others. Because the more I celebrate others, the more I like me, okay? All right. How many of you have taken a medicine called placebo? Okay? Placebo is a very powerful medicine. I've taken it before. And it's an amazing medicine that can cure everything from a headache to a boo-boo to whatever. But that's what placebo is, this awesome medicine that does that. Do you know what placebo actually is? Fake, but you think it's going to work, all right? So for that Tic Tac that your mom gave you when you had a headache, or here, do this, it'll make you feel better. That's basically what we're talking about. It shouldn't work that way, but it does, okay? Celebrating others can work in the same way that the placebo does. It tricks your brain into feeling less jealous and more love and compassion, okay? Which is awesome. We need that. Here's 2 great ways that we can put this into practice. 1, start with yourself. Look at your own life and determine what is worth celebrating. Your life has things worth celebrating. What are you good at? What do you have to be thankful for? What's good in your life right now? All right? I mean, I know these can seem like really cheesy questions, but when we put them into practice and we ask them and we participate in them, trust me, write these things down, okay? Write them down. Maybe even challenge yourself to write down one thing every single day. Promise you it will help. 2, move towards the person that you're jealous of. When you feel that tug of jealousy start to creep in, I want you to look at who you're being jealous at and actually move towards them. Find ways that you can celebrate them and cheer them on and do it. And how you see that person you're jealous of will change. Spend some time, praying for them, being thankful to them. Write down the things that they're really good at that they're doing to help you. And it's awesome. This will be difficult at first, and it may seem pointless. But if you can stick with it and stay committed to this process, you will be amazed at how it changes the way that you see yourself and how you see the person that you're jealous of. All right? What I want you to do is I want you to spend some time praying and asking God to help you change the way that your heart is towards them. Change the way that your heart's towards the people that you're jealous of. Now, I want to remind you that God isn't mad at you for being jealous. He understands that we all come wired that way with a tendency towards jealousy. He also knows how much it can hurt us and our relationships, which is why He wants to set us free from it. Jealousy will rot your relationships. Jealousy will rot your peace. But the more you celebrate others, and the more that you're going to like yourself. So, who do you need to celebrate? You may not be able to talk about it by name in small group, and I know my small group was we don't mention names, but take the time and celebrate them. You can begin to brainstorm ideas of how to celebrate others, and then on your own, what we can talk about is how to put that into work. How do we actually celebrate someone else, the people that we're jealous of? How do we remind ourselves to celebrate them instead of going down that rabbit hole of jealousy? You will experience more freedom when you do this in your relationship with yourself and with others. So what is one thing you can do this week to celebrate them, which will make you feel better about you? I love you guys. I miss you. I can't wait to see you soon.